Welcome back to this video about the USDX HF transceiver and how it works with the FT8 protocol app that I have on smartphone, Android phone specifically. And if you watch the Android phone, you might see the items in this tabular listing. You might see them scroll up. Yeah, it just did it. What that means is it just received some signals from the USDX, I should say, USDX HF transceiver. You can barely hear what's coming out the speaker, but yet the app is actually picking up those signals. And to show you what's happening here, there's a spectrum button which I'll push. We'll look at it closer, and it'll show you what's called a waterfall of what it's hearing, of what the app is hearing. And if you notice, all of a sudden an item just appeared on the screen there, some text, which we get closer to it, it's going to be listing what it just picked up. So let's see if I can capture that before it runs off the screen so you can see what it says. Okay, it's got EA8 something U, but it's going to be hard to see on the camera right now. But it's being decoded. Here comes some other ones here. These are actually decoded messages. Oh, when I go back to decode, they'll actually be in this list on here. So it's receiving the protocol, which sounds like warbling tones, and multiple tones, which is representing multiple stations that are transmitting. And this protocol is being decoded by the phone here, and we'll take a look at the details of what it does here. So let me see if I can get focused on what's happening with the phone. Okay, I'm in the decode mode right now, and what you can do is you can actually take the phone, rotate it, and now we can see a little bit better of a couple of things that can happen simultaneously here. What we observe is the waterfall of the audio signal coming from the radio, and you'll notice that every now and then you'll see some text appear sideways next to the information that is going to be portrayed in this waterfall, the tones. And then on the other side is what is being interpreted by the decode feature of this app. So you can notice it update. Alright, now there's another thing here. This is the decode mode here being shown. Calling, it changed over, let's see here, did calling change anything over there? Yes, calling changed the screen over to the right, and that's what you would use if you're going to transmit. I'm not going to talk about transmit today, but in the upper right is a symbol there which looks like a it's supposed to represent a horn, or like a loudspeaker thing with a slash through it. If we wanted to transmit, I'll demonstrate what happens if we transmit. Usually we'll go ahead and I'll just hit it. It's not going to go anywhere because it's not connected to anything, but we should be able to hear it if I put my volume up. So another thing is the messages take 15 seconds. Oh, there's 15 seconds between each new message. So the messages take about 15. All right. This is where the station would be transmitting over the air, and that would get interpreted by a receiving station. Since we don't want to transmit, I'm going to push that little megaphone icon to off with the slash, and actually turn the volume down so I don't need to do anything. But our receiver is still doing fine. So let me go back to the decode mode. So this is going to be what's being decoded, and what's going to be more impressive is when I go to hit the settings button. No, sorry about that, folks. That's not what I really wanted to do. What I really wanted to do is hit faintly visible are 4 icons over to the right here, and one down at the bottom is a kind of a globe. So I'm going to push that globe button and see what happens. Okay, this is fascinating because this will show you graphically what is happening in terms of communications of the stations being received. Okay, once we get a 15-second accumulation of stations here, we might be able to see who's trying to contact where on this map. Let's get this a little bit larger with the plus sign. All right, there we go. And those squares represent what's called grid squares. The ham radio community and others have sliced up the globe into squares and have assigned what they call maidenhead location identifiers. And so, like myself, my identifier is in the area designated EM40. But anyway, the squares that are showing up in here, the blue is the ones that have already heard the radio, the phone has already picked up. And if you notice that there's a line and a kind of a green dot heading toward where someone has just sent out a transmission and they're trying to reach somebody at the end of that line where that green dot is flowing. See, and this is pretty neat because it's showing who's trying to contact either a specific station, or they may be just sending out what's called a CQ signal, which is a signal that says they're on the air and they're asking if anybody wants to answer back. So here's more stations here showing up in terms of communication. All right, let me get back to the app and let me turn it. Let's get out of this mode. I can go to the phone's, I guess you call it the minimizer or what have you, and we can look at that. All right, the important thing is, for you to use this app, you're going to need to come in and set up your station ID. So let me hit cancel here because I think it wants me to turn my phone back sideways. All right, so I hit the settings button, and let me do a couple of things here at the top where you're not going to see it right offhand. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit better. All right, what you want to do is you want to enter your call sign in here. Now, if you don't have a call sign, you probably should maybe fill it up with some characters, just put XXXX. Well, let's use all capital letters, caps. XXX. Well, didn't do a good job of that. XXXX. Okay. And So I'd put my call sign in there, but I don't want to use my call sign. So you have to have a licensed call sign, or in this case we're using the X's. Now, this grid square, which is those squares I talked about, which signify location. If your Android phone has a GPS receiver in it, you could just simply push your hand or depress that particular item there. Let's see, actually hit the question mark. It says get grid from GPS, and there it is. This phone has a GPS receiver, and it automatically filled in the grid square. So that's wonderful. Okay. So that's set up for that. Now, there are some other things in here that could be important to set up, and some that really doesn't matter. For our purposes, we're just going to listen, and you don't worry about this time offset. Oops, I accidentally hit the phone. I didn't want to. Okay. There's a radio that you can select. Don't need to worry about it, but they happen to have USDX in there. We want to make sure that this app is set to VOX. All right, so recapping. Make sure you got your call sign, legal call sign. Don't forget to hit the question mark to automatically populate the grid square. The radio selection doesn't matter, but VOX, you need to have it as VOX. Everything else is superfluous, doesn't mean anything, except for you really want to have this frequency set up to which you really are using. And that's important for reporting purposes, because this app is going to report to a mapping program that you can use to pick up on your PC to see where your reception reports are going to go. So we're at 14074 on the radio, so we want this frequency to match with that. So we're going to look for 14074, select it, which we have. The other items, the mode, oops, don't want that. The other items on here don't really matter, except, let's see if there's any exceptions. No, you don't really want to do that. Antenna, your antenna, you're probably just using a wire, just a random wire for antenna. And that's about all you need to set up. And you go back to decode, and now you'll be able to see all the stations come in that the radio is picking up. Alright, so that concludes this portion. Just remember, don't forget to, or I should say, remember to put your appropriate call sign in there. So I've got it as XXXXX. So, but anyway, you would put your real call sign, if you have one, in there. That's it. Thank you.